I still remember the moment I saw those two pink lines on the pregnancy test. My hands were shaking as I held it up to the bathroom, light tears streaming down my face. After 2 years of marriage, David and I were finally going to be parents. When I showed him that evening, he lifted me up and spun me around our kitchen, both of us laughing and crying at the same time. We decided to announce it at his birthday party next month. I knew his sister Jessica had always been competitive with me, but I never imagined that sharing our joy would turn into a nightmare that would end with handcuffs and divorce papers. Before I tell you how my sister-in-law's jealousy spiraled into something criminal, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you want to hear how this wild story unfolds, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss what happened next. Trust me, you will want to stay until the end. My life in Austin, Texas with David had been everything I hoped for when we got married 2 years ago. I worked as a graphic designer from home for a marketing company, which gave me the flexibility I knew I would need once the baby came. David was a software engineer at a tech startup downtown, and we had just bought our first house in a quiet neighborhood with good schools. Everything felt like it was falling into place. But there was always this one shadow hanging over our happiness. Jessica, David's younger sister. From the very first family dinner after David proposed, I could feel her eyes on me, measuring, comparing, judging. She was 26, 2 years younger than me, and worked as a small-time influencer on social media. Every time we saw her, she would find a way to mention her new purse, her latest brand partnership, or how many followers she had gained that week. If I wore a new dress, she would show up next time in something more expensive. When David and I bought our Honda, she leased a BMW the following month, even though I knew she and her husband Marcus were struggling with debt. Helen, my mother-in-law, only made it worse. She had always favored Jessica as the baby of the family, constantly praising her daughter's appearance and accomplishments while barely acknowledging mine. At family gatherings, Helen would spend hours talking to Jessica about fashion and social media, then turn to me with polite but distant questions about my work. I tried so hard to connect with her, bringing homemade dishes to dinners and remembering her favorite flowers, but nothing seemed to break through that invisible wall. David noticed, of course. He would apologize after every family event, squeezing my hand in the car on the way home. But he always brushed it off as normal sibling rivalry, saying Jessica had always been dramatic and that she would grow out of it. I wanted to believe him. I really did. So I kept smiling, kept trying, kept hoping that one day Helen would see me as a real daughter and Jessica would accept me as family. 1 week before David's birthday party, we decided it was time to share our news with his parents first. We drove to their house on a Thursday evening, bringing Helen's favorite wine and a small gift bag for Thomas, David's father. The whole drive over, I felt butterflies in my stomach. This was supposed to be a joyful moment, the kind families remember forever. We sat in their living room, the same floral couch I had sat on dozens of times before. Thomas was in his recliner, reading glasses perched on his nose. Helen was arranging flowers in a vase, and Jessica happened to be there too, scrolling through her phone on the love seat. David looked at me and I nodded. He cleared his throat. "Mom, Dad, we have some news to share. Charlotte and I are going to have a baby." The silence that followed felt like it lasted an hour, though it was probably only a few seconds. Thomas jumped up immediately, a huge smile breaking across his face. He pulled me into a warm hug, then clapped David on the back. "Congratulations, this is wonderful news." But Helen just stood there, still holding a lily in her hand. She blinked a few times, then said in a flat voice, "Oh, that is nice." Not excited, not warm. Just nice, like I had told her I bought new curtains. I looked over at Jessica. Her face had gone completely pale and her fingers were gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. Then she arranged her features into a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Wow, Charlotte, I did not know you two were even trying. How unexpected." The way she said unexpected made my stomach twist. There was something sharp underneath those words, something cold. David either did not notice or chose to ignore it. He kept talking about due dates and baby names while Thomas asked enthusiastic questions. Helen excused herself to finish dinner and Jessica went back to her phone, but I could see her jaw clenching every time David mentioned the baby. On the drive home, I told David how uncomfortable I felt. Something is off with Jessica. Did you see the way she looked at me? He reached over and squeezed my hand. She is probably just surprised. You know how she is. Everything is about her. She will get over it once the shock wears off. I wanted to believe him. But that night, lying in bed, I could not shake the image of Jessica's face going white or the edge in her voice when she said unexpected. The next week flew by in a blur of party preparations. We decided to host David's 30th birthday at our house. I spent days planning every detail. I ordered catering from his favorite barbecue place, hung string lights in the backyard, and created a playlist of all the songs he loved. I invited about 40 people, friends from work, college buddies, family, and neighbors. And I ordered a special cake from a local bakery, a chocolate cake with vanilla frosting that had a secret message inside. Baby on board. I planned to cut it right after we sang Happy Birthday and everyone would see the message when we served the slices. I had been imagining that moment for weeks, seeing the surprise and joy on everyone's faces. Jessica called me 3 times that week, which was unusual since we normally only talked at family events. She was suddenly very interested in the party, asking what I needed help with, offering to pick up decorations or arrange flowers. At first, I was touched. Maybe I had been wrong about her reaction. Maybe she really was coming around. Then she offered to make a slideshow of photos for David. I have so many great pictures of him growing up, she said. It would be such a nice surprise during the party. I thought it was a sweet gesture. I even sent her some photos from our wedding and our honeymoon to include. She thanked me profusely, her voice sugary sweet over the phone. 2 days before the party, I started feeling the first waves of morning sickness. Nothing terrible, just a constant low-level nausea and exhaustion that hit me in the afternoons. I was resting on the couch when Sarah, my best friend since college, called to check in. Sarah was a lawyer at a firm downtown sharp as a tack and fiercely protective of the people she loved. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Excited for the party?" "Excited and nervous," I admitted. "I cannot wait to share the news with everyone, but I have this weird feeling about Jessica. She has been acting strange." "Strange how?" "Too nice. She keeps calling, offering to help. It just does not feel right." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Trust your gut, Charlotte. If something feels off, it probably is. Just keep your eyes open." The day before the party, Jessica showed up at my door unannounced. She was carrying a box of decorations, smiling brightly. "I thought I would come help you set up early. I know you have been feeling tired." I let her in, grateful for the help despite my lingering unease. She started hanging streamers in the living room, chatting about her latest Instagram campaign. But I noticed her eyes kept wandering toward the hallway, toward our bedroom and office. At one point, she asked, "Do you keep a journal or anything? I always thought it would be nice to document pregnancy." "I have a little notebook," I said. "Just for writing down thoughts and feelings." "Why?" "Oh, just curious. I think it is sweet." A few minutes later, she excused herself to use the bathroom. She was gone for almost 10 minutes. When she came back out, she seemed flustered, checking her watch and saying she had to run because Marcus needed her for something. She left so quickly she almost forgot the box she had brought. After she left, I walked through the house, that uneasy feeling growing stronger. Everything seemed normal. My notebook was still on my nightstand where I had left it. Nothing was missing. But something felt wrong. I could not put my finger on it. I pushed the feeling down. Tomorrow was supposed to be a celebration. I was not going to let paranoia ruin it. The night of the party arrived with perfect weather, warm, but not too hot, with a gentle breeze that made the string lights sway in the backyard. I wore a pastel floral dress that hid my barely there baby bump, my hair curled and pinned back. Looking in the mirror, I felt beautiful and hopeful. Tonight everyone would know. Tonight our family would grow. Guests started arriving around 7. David was glowing, greeting everyone at the door with hugs and handshakes. His coworkers brought beer, his college friends brought embarrassing stories, and our neighbors brought wine and warm wishes. The house filled with laughter and music, exactly the atmosphere I had hoped for. Jessica and Marcus arrived late, around 8. She made an entrance wearing a bright red dress that hugged every curve of her makeup, dramatic and flawless. She was carrying an oversized designer purse and a large gift bag for David. Helen and Thomas had arrived earlier, and I watched as Helen immediately gravitated toward Jessica, complimenting her dress and asking about her latest social media posts. Thomas gave me a kind smile and asked how I was feeling, which I appreciated more than he knew. The evening flowed smoothly. People ate, drank, and mingled. I moved through the crowd, playing hostess, making sure everyone had what they needed. David kept catching my eye across the room, winking at me, both of us holding on to the secret that was about to become public. After dinner, as people gathered in the living room and backyard, I brought out the birthday cake, candles flickering. Everyone sang happy birthday, their voices filling the house with warmth. David stood next to me, his arm around my waist. This was it. As soon as we cut the cake, everyone would see the message inside. I could barely contain my excitement. But before I could hand David the knife, Jessica's voice rang out across the room. Wait. Before we do the cake, I made a special slideshow for my big brother. Can we watch it first? I felt a small spike of annoyance. We had not planned for this, but everyone was already murmuring with interest, and David looked pleased. I forced a smile and nodded. Of course. That sounds lovely. Jessica pulled out her laptop and connected it to our TV. She dimmed the lights slightly and the slideshow began. The first images were sweet baby photos of David with gap-toothed smiles, pictures of him and Jessica as kids building sandcastles, teenage David at his high school graduation. Everyone laughed and made affectionate comments. I stood next to David, holding his hand, waiting for this to end so we could finally cut the cake. The photos continued. David and me on our wedding day. David at his first day at his current job. David and his dad fishing last summer. It was a nice collection, nothing spectacular, but thoughtful enough. I started to relax. Maybe I had been wrong about Jessica. Maybe this was her way of showing support. Then the slideshow changed. The screen suddenly displayed a page from a notebook. My notebook. My handwriting. The page where I had written about my fears of not being a good enough mother. My private thoughts poured out late at night when the anxiety got too heavy to carry alone. The room went silent. I felt the blood drain from my face. Another page appeared. This one was about Helen. I am scared Helen will never accept me. She looks at me like I am not good enough for her son. Sometimes I wonder if she even wants me in this family. My heart stopped. I could not breathe. Everyone was reading my most vulnerable thoughts on a giant screen in my own living room. More pages flashed by. Worries about gaining too much weight. Fears about labor and delivery. Doubts about whether I would know how to take care of a baby. Private, raw, painful thoughts that were never meant for anyone else to see. People started shifting uncomfortably. Some looked away. Others whispered to each other. I felt David's hand tighten around mine. Then Jessica spoke, her voice dripping with fake concern. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I think I mixed up the files. I must have accidentally included Charlotte's private journal. But she did not stop the slideshow. She let it keep playing. And then she turned to the room, her expression a perfect mask of sympathy with poison underneath. But since it is already out there, I guess we all know now how Charlotte really feels. She thinks Helen is a bad mother-in-law. She does not even think she is ready to be a mom. I mean, if you are going to have a baby, should not you at least feel confident about it? The whispers grew louder. I saw Helen stand up, her face a mixture of hurt and fury. She was staring at me like I had slapped her. Thomas looked confused, his eyes moving between the screen and his wife. Tears were streaming down my face. I could not speak. My throat had closed up completely. This could not be happening. This was supposed to be our happy moment. David exploded. Jessica, what the hell is this? How did you get Charlotte's journal? Jessica widened her eyes innocently. She left it on the table when I came over yesterday. I thought it was just a regular notebook with some photos tucked inside. I did not know it was private. I was just trying to make a nice slideshow. It was a lie. I had never left my journal on any table. She had gone into my bedroom. She had taken photos of those pages. This was planned, deliberate, cruel. Helen's voice cut through the room. So this is what you really think of me after everything I have done for you? I tried to speak, my voice shaking. Helen, I wrote those things in a moment of weakness. I never meant for anyone to see them. I was just processing my feelings. Please, you have to understand. But Helen was not listening. Her face was set in stone. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. Thomas followed her, throwing me an apologetic glance before they disappeared into the night. Guests started to leave. Some squeezed my shoulder as they passed, mumbling awkward condolences. Others just slipped out quietly, avoiding eye contact. Within 15 minutes, our living room had gone from full of celebration to nearly empty. The birthday cake sat untouched on the table, the secret message still hidden inside. Jessica stood near the TV, that small, satisfied smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Sarah walked up to her, her lawyer voice cold and sharp. You did this on purpose, did not you? Jessica met her gaze without flinching. I have no idea what you are talking about. It was an honest mistake. I feel terrible. She did not look terrible, she looked triumphant. David took my hand and led me to our bedroom. I collapsed on the bed, sobbing so hard I thought I might be sick. Everything was ruined. Our announcement, our party, my relationship with Helen. Everyone had seen my deepest insecurities laid bare. I felt naked and humiliated and broken. David sat next to me, his jaw clenched, fury radiating off him. I am going to fix this. Jessica crossed the line. This is not going to stand. But I did not see how anything could be fixed. The damage was done. While I was in the bedroom trying to piece myself back together, Sarah was in the living room doing what she did best, investigating. She noticed that Jessica had left her laptop on the coffee table when she went outside to smoke a cigarette with Marcus. Sarah opened it. What she found made her blood run cold. The folder with the slideshow did not just contain photos of my journal pages. There were dozens of other files. Photos of my passport. Photos of my credit cards front and back. Photos of my social security card, my driver's license, bank statements, medical records, and there were messages. A conversation between Jessica and someone named Alex talking about identity theft, credit card fraud, and how much money they could make before anyone noticed. They had been planning this for weeks. Sarah took photos of everything with her phone, her hands shaking with adrenaline. Then she found David. David, this is bigger than humiliation. Jessica is planning to steal Charlotte's identity. We need to call the police right now. David stared at the evidence on Sarah's phone, his face going from red with anger to white with shock. He checked the laptop himself, scrolling through the messages, the photos, the detailed plans. Jessica had not just wanted to embarrass me. She had wanted to destroy my financial life. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. 30 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived at our house. Detective Rodriguez, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, took our statements. She examined the laptop photographing the evidence. She read through the messages between Jessica and Alex, her expression growing grimmer with each line. Jessica was still outside laughing with a couple of remaining guests, completely unaware of what was about to happen. She had taken off her heels and was sitting on our patio furniture like she owned the place. Detective Rodriguez walked outside. Jessica Martin. Jessica looked up surprised. Yes. You are under arrest for identity theft, attempted fraud, and invasion of privacy. The color drained from Jessica's face. What? This is ridiculous. I did not do anything. Ma'am, we have significant evidence that you photographed private documents belonging to Charlotte Martin without her consent and conspired with another individual to commit credit fraud. Please stand up. Marcus jumped to his feet. There has to be some mistake. Jessica would not do that. But Detective Rodriguez was already reading Jessica her rights as another officer put handcuffs on her wrists. Jessica started crying, mascara running down her face. Mom, tell them this is a mistake. Helen and Thomas had come back when they saw the police cars. Helen stood frozen on our driveway watching her daughter being arrested. Jessica, what did you do? I was just trying to teach Charlotte a lesson. She does not deserve David. She is not good enough for this family. Detective Rodriguez's voice was firm. Ma'am, identity theft is a federal crime. You are going to need a lawyer. They put Jessica in the back of the police car. The last guests scattered quickly, not wanting to be part of whatever was happening. Marcus stood in our yard, looking lost, his whole world crumbling around him. Helen was crying now, Thomas holding her up. After the police took Jessica away, the house felt eerily quiet. The birthday decorations still hung on the walls, mocking the disaster the evening had become. I came out of the bedroom, my eyes swollen from crying, and found Sarah waiting for me. She pulled me into a fierce hug. I am so sorry you went through that. But Charlotte, you need to know what she was really planning. Sarah showed me the photos she had taken of Jessica's laptop. Every document, every message, the full scope of what Jessica had intended to do. She and this Alex person had planned to open multiple credit cards in my name, max them out, and disappear before anyone noticed. They had talked about taking out loans, even filing fake tax returns. It was not just petty revenge. It was organized crime. I felt sick, and then I felt angry. Angrier than I had ever been in my life. David came and wrapped his arms around me. I am so sorry. I should have seen this coming. Jessica has always been jealous, but I never thought she would go this far. I should have protected you better. I pulled back and looked at him. This is not your fault, but we are not letting this go. She tried to destroy me. She is not getting away with it. Helen and Thomas were still in our driveway. Thomas came to the door, his face aged 10 years in one night. Charlotte, I do not even know what to say. What Jessica did is unforgivable. I am so deeply sorry. Helen stood behind him, tears still streaming down her face. But when she met my eyes, I saw something different than before. Shame. Regret. I pushed her to this, Helen whispered. I made her think she was better than everyone. I let her believe she deserved everything without working for it. And I treated you terribly because I was too blind to see what a good person you are. This is my fault. I did not have the energy to comfort her. Helen, I cannot do this right now. I need you both to leave. They left, and I spent the rest of the night in David's arms, alternating between crying and rage. The next morning, I woke up with a new determination. I called Sarah and asked her to represent me, not just for the criminal case which the state would handle, but for a civil suit against Jessica for emotional distress and invasion of privacy. I want to make sure she cannot do this to anyone else. I told Sarah. I want consequences. Sarah agreed immediately. I will draft everything. And Charlotte, I am also recommending we ask the detective to investigate Marcus. We need to know if he was involved. Over the next few days, Detective Rodriguez conducted a thorough investigation. They tracked down Alex, who turned out to be a low-level con artist with a record. They found evidence that Jessica had already attempted to open 2 credit cards in my name. Both had been rejected by the banks because of inconsistencies in the applications, but she had tried. She had actually tried to steal my identity. Marcus was cleared of involvement. He had no idea what his wife was planning. When Detective Rodriguez showed him the evidence, he broke down. He came to our house a week later to apologize, looking hollow and defeated. I did not know, he kept saying. I knew she was jealous of you, but I thought it was just normal insecurity. I never imagined she would do something illegal. I am filing for divorce. I cannot be married to someone like that." I felt a strange pity for him. He had been fooled too, just in a different way. Helen called me every day for 2 weeks. At first I did not answer, but finally I picked up. Her voice was thick with tears. "Charlotte, I know you have no reason to forgive me, but I need you to know that I was wrong about you from the beginning. I let my favoritism for Jessica blind me to the fact that you are exactly the kind of woman David needs. You are strong and kind and forgiving. And you are going to be an amazing mother. I am sorry I ever made you doubt that." Her words cracked something open in me. I started crying again, but this time it felt different. Cleansing. "Thank you for saying that, Helen. I appreciate your apology, but I need time to heal from this. I cannot just pretend everything is okay." "I understand. Take all the time you need. I will be here when you are ready." I started seeing a therapist to work through the trauma of what Jessica had done. Dr. Patterson helped me understand that Jessica's actions were about her own brokenness, not about my worth. She helped me process the violation of having my private thoughts exposed and my identity nearly stolen. Slowly, week by week, I started to feel like myself again. David was incredible through all of it. He went to every prenatal appointment with me, held my hand during the ultrasounds, took childbirth classes with me even though they terrified him. He apologized to me at least once a day for his sister until I finally told him to stop. This was not his burden to carry. 2 months after the party, Jessica's case went to court. The prosecutor had a mountain of evidence: the laptop files, the messages with Alex, security camera footage from a bank showing Jessica trying to submit a credit card application with my information, my testimony about finding her in my house disappearing into the bathroom for 10 minutes. I gave a victim impact statement. I stood in that courtroom and told the judge how Jessica's actions had affected me. The sleepless nights, the anxiety attacks, the fear that someone I should have been able to trust as family had tried to ruin my life. The humiliation of having my private thoughts broadcast to 40 people. The violation of having my personal documents stolen. Jessica's lawyer tried to argue that she had just been angry and acted impulsively, that no real financial damage had been done. But the judge was not buying it. Judge Morrison looked at Jessica with cold eyes. "Ms. Martin, you did not just humiliate your sister-in-law. You conspired to commit identity theft, a serious federal crime. You photographed private documents with the intent to defraud financial institutions. You violated someone's privacy in the cruelest way possible. The fact that you were unsuccessful in your fraud attempts does not negate your criminal intent." Jessica was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. She was also ordered to pay me $25,000 in damages for emotional distress. In the gallery, Helen sobbed quietly. Thomas sat with his head in his hands. Marcus, who had already filed divorce papers, stared straight ahead with no expression. Jessica was led away in handcuffs. She looked back once, her eyes meeting mine. I saw no remorse there, only bitterness. As we left the courthouse, Sarah squeezed my hand. "You did it. You stood up for yourself." The months that followed were about rebuilding. I focused on my pregnancy, on preparing for our daughter. David and I painted the nursery a soft yellow, assembled the crib together, washed tiny clothes, and folded them into drawers. Every kick I felt reminded me that something beautiful was coming from all this pain. Helen kept her distance like I had asked, but she sent cards and small gifts. A handmade baby blanket. A children's book that had been David's favorite. Little gestures that said she was trying. After a few months, I agreed to have coffee with her. We sat in a quiet cafe and she apologized again, more thoroughly this time. I realize now that I taught Jessica that the world owed her something, that she deserved to be the center of attention. I compared you to her constantly, and I made you feel like you were never enough. But Charlotte, you were always enough. You were always more than enough. I was just too stubborn and blind to see it. I accepted her apology. Not because what she did was okay, but because holding on to anger was exhausting and I did not want to carry that weight into motherhood. Helen and I would never have a perfect relationship, but we could have an honest one. My therapy sessions helped me process everything. Dr. Patterson taught me about boundaries, about recognizing toxic behavior, about the difference between forgiveness and acceptance. I learned that I could forgive Jessica for my own peace while still holding her accountable for her actions. The two were not mutually exclusive. Work became a refuge. I threw myself into design projects and my creativity flourished. My boss noticed and promoted me to senior designer, a position I had been working toward for years. The timing felt like a sign that good things were still possible. Sarah remained my constant support. She came to my baby shower, helped me interview pediatricians, and promised to be there the day I went into labor. Having her in my life reminded me that real family is not just about blood. It is about who shows up for you when everything falls apart. Marcus finalized his divorce while Jessica was in prison. He moved to another state, sent me one final apology letter, and started over. I heard through Thomas that he was in therapy trying to understand how he had missed all the signs. I hoped he found peace. In my 9th month, on a warm spring morning, my water broke. David drove me to the hospital, both of us terrified and excited. Labor was long and hard, but when they finally placed Lily in my arms, everything else fell away. She was perfect. Tiny fingers, dark hair, her father's nose. I looked down at her and felt a love so overwhelming it physically hurt. David cried. I had never seen him cry before, but he stood next to the hospital bed with tears streaming down his face, whispering, "You are the strongest woman I know. Look what you did. Look what we made." Helen and Thomas came to the hospital later that day. Helen held her granddaughter with shaking hands, tears falling onto Lily's blanket. "Thank you for letting me be here," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me another chance." I nodded. Because that is what we do. We give people chances to be better. We let them prove they have learned. Those first months of motherhood were exhausting and beautiful, and nothing like I had feared. All those worries I had written in my journal, all those doubts about whether I would be a good mother dissolved the first time Lily smiled at me. I was not perfect, but I was enough. I was exactly what she needed. I started a blog about my experience, not just about pregnancy and motherhood, but about surviving betrayal and finding strength. I wrote about boundaries and forgiveness and the long road to healing. To my surprise, hundreds of people responded. Women who had been betrayed by family members, who had their privacy violated, who had been made to feel small by the people who should have lifted them up. We created a community of survivors, and sharing our stories helped us all heal a little more. Jessica remained in prison. Helen visited her occasionally, but Thomas stopped going after the first few months. He told me once with tears in his eyes that he did not recognize the person his daughter had become. Helen sent her books and money for the commissary, but their relationship would never be the same. I did not think about Jessica often. When I did, I tried to feel compassion for whatever pain had twisted her into someone capable of such cruelty. But mostly, I focused on my own life, my own family, my own healing. One afternoon, when Lily was 6 months old, I sat in our backyard watching her play on a blanket in the sunshine. David was grilling burgers, the smell of charcoal and summer in the air. Sarah had stopped by with her new girlfriend, and they were laughing at something on their phones. Helen and Thomas were coming over for dinner later. It was ordinary and perfect. I thought about that night of the party, how completely destroyed I had felt, how certain I was that I would never recover from the humiliation and betrayal. And I realized something. Jessica had tried to break me, but instead she had revealed who truly mattered in my life. She had forced me to develop boundaries I should have had all along. She had pushed me to find a strength I did not know I possessed. Looking back now, holding my daughter in my arms, I realized that some battles are not meant to be avoided but fought with grace and truth. Jessica thought humiliating me would make her feel superior, but all it did was reveal her own brokenness. I did not just survive what she did to me. I came out stronger, more aware, and surrounded by people who truly love me. And that, I think, is the best revenge of all. Living well, loving deeply, and refusing to let bitterness win. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, remember this. Their actions define them, not you. Your response defines you. Choose healing. Choose strength. Choose to rise. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone close to you? How did you find the strength to move forward? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences about overcoming adversity. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they can survive betrayal and come out stronger. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brings you comfort if you are going through something similar. Remember, you are stronger than you know, and your worth is not determined by those who fail to see it. Take care of yourselves and know that better days are ahead.